message. This message is now being recorded.
There you go.
And there we go. Okay.
All right. Perfect.
Okay. So thanks all the presenters that we are going to have a tight, like a nice little tight group of information today. Everybody's going to do 10 minutes or less, and then we'll do Q&A at the end. I am going to go just in the order that I put in the post. If anybody decides that they want to change that, go for it. But that would be starting with Stephen Vidrine. Can you introduce yourself and then talk about which platform, or not platform, structure you're representing?
Absolutely. So I'm Stephen Vidrine. I'm the head mentor for Team 8808, the SWA TechPirates, here located in Southwest Louisiana. We are a community team, 501c3, fully detached from anything. We are 100% our own organization. And I guess you want to do the presentations now and go through that part?
Yep, please. Sorry, I had muted myself.
Oh, you're good. Okay, we're going to do this guy. Okay, can y'all see the slideshow?
Yeah.
Do y'all see the slideshow, or do you see the presenter screen?
We see both.
You see both.
We see you and the screen.
Okay,
Now we just see presenters.
see this.
I think you had it right when you put it in there.
Do
You're muted, Carolyn.
There we go. Okay, there we go. Now you should see the PowerPoint only, right?
Yeah, no.
Well, you can still see me, but you should see the PowerPoint full screen.
We do.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
perfect. All right. Here we go. First things first. So 501c3 nonprofit status in the state of Louisiana. It's not too terribly difficult to do. You do have to register yourself as a 501c3 nonprofit with the state of Louisiana at louisianagobiz.gov. You'll create your account with them. You'll register the nonprofit. You'll then have to continue on the steps and getting things done. You'll have to create your account, create your organization. You will create your federal tax ID number with the federal government, and that's through the IRS. Once you get your federal tax ID completed, you'll submit that to the state, and then you'll actually submit your application to be a fully 501c3 nonprofit within the federal government's eyes with the IRS. Once you send all that paperwork in, it takes months. I know for us, it took about 8 to 9 months for us to get us fully certified as a 501c3 nonprofit in the eyes of the federal government. In the eyes of the state, a 501c3 is instantaneous upon approval with the state. State usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get your approval. The federal government portion is the key part, though. That's your tax exempt status. In the state of Louisiana, being a nonprofit does not allow you to not have to pay sales tax. You still have to pay sales tax. It saves you from state tax only. Also, within the federal government, being a 501c3 nonprofit, a lot of your donors are going to want to see that your nonprofit status is live and functional within the federal government. So that's going to be attached to your tax ID number, and you'll be able to be searched on the federal nonprofit searching sites. You'll be able to see your organization, your articles of incorporation, everything is up there and running. That is your two key beneficiaries there. And a lot of your donors, especially your big ones, aren't going to donate unless they see that. So just be mindful of that. You may have to do a little hybrid state. I know that's what we did. We started at a school. We used their nonprofit status to get us going while we built the 501c3 nonprofit up. And then once everything got approved, we went full SWA TechPirates, and we are no longer attached to anyone. It is just us. And with that being said, it fosters trust and credibility within the community and your sponsors. They know that you're a legitimate organization, you followed the rules, you're doing the things that you need to do to be run as a true nonprofit. It also enables you independent operation and to be able to have your own organizational structures and rules. You're no longer attached to anybody. You are your own organization. which then brings up the next thing that we have to talk about: operational safeguards. Insurance. Y'all know how crazy kids are today, parents especially, on lawsuits. It is absolutely insane that they'll sue you over the littlest, tiniest of things. With you being your own organization, whoever is the director or the owner of the organization, like for myself, it's me. I'm the sole owner and director of the SWA TechPirates. They would be able to sue the organization, not me. The organization is that buffer line. So if they were to sue, they're suing the organization. I'm over here as just an independent owning it, and they can sue the organization for everything it owns, but they can't touch me. That's why having the business, quote unquote business, because the 501c3 is still a business in the eyes of the law, protects you from those lawsuits. Your insurance is the biggest thing. So if anything happens, like at school, for example, somebody breaks an arm, gets cut, that is going to fall on the school's insurance policy and the kids' waivers whenever they signed up to join that school. You have to have your own now. And so for us, we have insurance on not only the nonprofit, but the directors. So myself and the mentors to protect them, and the equipment. Equipment is a very big one. We spend a lot of money on all these tools and parts. And one of the most important insurance things that you can have is on the equipment. So for example, if we're going to competition and that trailer detaches or an 18-wheeler plows into it on the side of the interstate and we lose everything, we pay our deductible and we get all of our equipment back, or we get a check to be able to purchase all that equipment back. So just like insurance on your car and things of that nature, it's the same concept. You're just insuring the business, the 501c3. On top of that, liability waivers, just like at school, your handbooks at school, your lawyers, they draft those forms up. You just need something on the same hand for you. You need liability waivers. We actually have a handbook, a 48-page handbook that the kids have that they have to read and sign with their parents. And it goes over the risk of being in the organization, and they sign an initial at every single risk, being aware that they are aware of those risks and that they understand that the responsibility is on them and they can't come after us. Quote unquote, can't come after us. Everybody can sue you at some point. It's just a waiver to show that if we do go to court, hey, the parents and the students agreed to these standards of operations. They took the risk and their finger got cut off because they didn't do the right thing using the tool properly. So just some operational safeguards that you really, really want to have. Next
4 minutes,
is
20 seconds, Stephen.
okay. Next is governance and financial management. So I think Julie and them are going to talk about the board of directors a lot more than I will. Just know that a board of directors is very helpful. Money management. One of the biggest things having your own 501c3, you get to manage your own money. Nobody can tell you what you can do with it except for your board of directors and your director itself. So we have a dedicated bank account. We actually have two. One that earns 5% interest in our savings account, and the rest is our expense account. So we have our own accounting software to track income and expenses. If we need to go to Home Depot, swap the credit card. We need to purchase a $10,000 item online, boom, put the credit card down. Don't have to ask for permission. It processes it just like if you were going to Walmart to buy a loaf of bread. One of the cool things about it is it allows you to be able to do quick and easy payments and also plan for your future payments. So we have budgeting. So the kids actually budget our money. They manage our accounting software suite and make sure that we're set up for success. Another thing that we're doing in-house, we started this last year. We are fully cashless. No cash, no checks, no nothing from members specifically. When we do fundraisers and things of that nature, we allow those transactions to come through. But we're trying to move fully cashless because we partnered with a company called Zephy, 100% free. This is a little plug for y'all. 100% free. They do charge a fee to make a payment online, but there's a catch. You can adjust that fee to $0. So now all of our payments, all of our members, everything is done through Zephy, and it's in a portal for you to track all their payments. So you're not fumbling with cash, losing checks, not depositing the money. It's instantly pulled from their account, and it hits your account once a week, every Monday. So something cool with Zephy there. And then lastly, for us, we use Microsoft Office communication tools. G Suite's great, but Microsoft offers so much more tools, as you can tell what we're using right now. Adoption of band for communication. That was that presentation that me and Carolyn had did about a year ago. And I think everybody, I know the state has for sure adopted band, and there's quite a few teams that have adopted to band. If you want to know more about that, reach out to Carolyn for the recording on that. Highly suggest band for communication. And we are trying out Jibble for the first time for our team attendance and time tracking. So we actually print out their own badges. And on the back of the badge, we are putting a NFC tag. So it looks something like this. And on the back, we are putting an NFC tag on the back to be able to clock in and out. And it's working great so far. So yeah, that is what I have to say.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I love that that idea about the badges. We'll have to, if you have success, we'll have to do a follow-up on that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love that idea.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you could somehow track them like when you're out of town as well.
Yeah,
right?
that's the beauty of it, because they have to have their ID wherever we go, and my phone's with me, or you can have a team tablet, and they literally, wherever we're at, like they meet up to load up the bus, they scan in, and they don't scan back out until we get back. So we make sure all the rosters line up everywhere we go.
That's pretty cool.
Can you
Yep,
are you making your own NFC chips, or do you have to order those?
Yes, so you can order any NFC tags that you want, and then
Perfect.
whenever you go to the person's name, you register that tag with their name, and it logs it in.
You just saved a life. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we have about 30 seconds left in Stephen's presentation. I would like to make a note that schools are not 501c3s. So while you can use them for some things, there are certain donors that will use platforms like Benevity. Benevity will not pay out to anybody unless they are a 501c3. So that is a big, like Chevron, Raytheon, they use Benevity, a lot of Phillips 66, a lot of these major companies, and there's Stephen's timer, will use that 501c3 required platform. If you don't have one, we really encourage that you'll get one or one of the other options here that would qualify for it. But we do have pass-through opportunity. If it's just a one-time thing, you can have them donated to First Louisiana, Mississippi, and then we can pass it through to the school. So just that quick note. Moving on to Julie Dixon.
That is me. I'm Julie Dixon. I'm with Team 2992 in Mandeville, Louisiana. We are a school team. However, we have a booster club, and our booster club is its own 501c3. And that has helped. So our funds actually go through the booster club, and we keep very little funds in our school account because of the red tape specifically. So I'll get to that in a minute. So managing funds through a team expense with the booster club, it's important that you set up a budget with the team, usually 3 to 6 months before the fiscal year ends. You review the budget with the team. So the team has to tell us how to budget each item. We're not going to know what equipment they need. Because we act as almost a bank account. So the boosters act like a bank account. And we have to keep strict lines on that to make sure that we're not interfering with the team's management. So I encourage strict rules on how you're going to use your funds, how you approve your funds and manage your funds. So the basically what we keep in the school account is more of the teacher's travel and her expenses into the school account, and that comes from the student's membership, and that's kept in there. So ensuring that you have a strong bylaws is key when you're dealing with a school and a booster club. So what we did was we took our parish guidelines or your county guidelines, and we did that. We used that as a guideline to set up our bylaws. So we're regulated by the school, even though we're our own 501c3. So we have to make sure that the boosters know that they have no rights or authority over the team operations. And that's a key, because sometimes you can get boosters where they're like, well, it's our money, we could tell them how to spend it. So you have to make sure it's written several times in the bylaws that boosters are separate from the team. It's important that we have written into our faculty sponsor has sole authority to the day-to-day activity, and that kind of helps it out. She is in control of the students and the team, where we handle more like watching the budget and make sure that they're on track to spend their money correctly. So your bylaws should include things like the name, the purpose, the specific objectivities, membership meetings, who's on the executive board, motions and resolutions. Your financial information should also be in your bylaws, how you handle your money, your yearly audit, your internal controls. And also it's important to have standing rules on who makes what decisions. Ensuring that your booster works with the general membership. So the booster executive board more or less makes sure that the general membership's vote is being carried out. So we have a checks and balances to make sure that there's not overpowering the membership. And we follow Robert's Rules of Orders when it comes to our meetings. So in a way out, you want to make sure you have an escape clause, especially when you're keeping your funds in a separate 501c3 than the school account. So you want to make sure that your boosters can't run away with the team's money. In doing that, you want to make sure the sponsor and the principal can and will remove someone from office. They have that authority. The sponsor, the coach, and the principal can dissolve the boosters and return all funds to the team. And you want to have a note that everything that is purchased for the team becomes property of the team. So those are things you could do to ensure that you're protecting the team. So we have a list of order of booster operations per the bylaws, and it specifically labels out who does what. So the faculty sponsor, she has to attend all the general board meetings and acts as a liaison between the school, the team, and the booster club. The faculty sponsor sits on the executive board in an advisory capacity. So she doesn't get a vote or her hand in the money, because that's per the parish laws, but she is there to advise us and to act as a liaison between the school and the booster club and the team in the booster club. So the president leads the booster organization and meetings. We schedule meetings. The president approves expenditures and signs checks if the secretary is not available, and calls special executive board meetings to ensure the booster club follows the bylaws. That's her main purpose, is to approve expenditures that have been budgeted and make sure we're staying within the bylaws. And the vice president is there in case the president's not available, or if, say, I'm the booster president right now. If I was to have an expense that I need reimbursed, then she needs to approve it. I cannot approve it. So she would have to approve anything that has to do with my household, myself, or I'm not available. The treasurer can only approve things with the president or vice president's approval. So she cannot write a check without the president approving it, and we get a signed authorization. She pays the invoice and prepares the budget for presentation to the members and gives a treasurer report monthly. So then the financial secretary, we have another person that's a financial secretary. She's not allowed to write checks, but she has to record and keep record of what the treasurer does and reconciles the banks. So she has to she goes behind the treasurer, make sure that the checks have been written, have written approval, and has all the paperwork. So monthly, she's making sure we're reconciled. And then we have the secretary who records all the meetings. Was there a question?
Quick question. Yeah. Is this all these volunteer positions, or are these positions that are already within the school?
No, these are volunteers. These are mostly parents. All
Perfect. Thank you.
volunteers. So the secretary records amended bylaws, updates them, and distributes them to the membership faculty sponsor. And she's the one that is a secondary on the check. So there's always two people writing the check. So when the finances go, it goes to team request. They get approval. Then the secretary is writing the checks upon approval. And then there's somebody behind her. There's a second person who signs it. And then there's somebody making sure that that check was written and it has the receipt and it has the approvals to go with it. So it's a checks and balances to make sure that we're all in compliance and there's no misuse of funds. It's harder to do that when everybody on the board is touching one expense, but it's streamlined really, really successfully. The voting power, we make sure that the voting power, the board, the general membership approves unbudgeted expenses over 500. They also approve the budget yearly. So the budget is approved, the bylaws are approved by general membership. And then we make sure that that approval is with the general membership. However, if there's an unbudgeted expense that's under $500, the executive board can approve that. It has to be a $500 per occurrence between membership meetings. So if it's over 500, we have to call in a special membership for our general board to our general membership. That's all the parents usually, or anyone who has vested interest in the team that pays the dues becomes a board member. And so the power is with the general membership, and the board is making sure that we're following what they vote on, if that makes sense. So when we talk about budget, the team, the students, and the lead mentors actually set the budget. They give us a baseline, what they're going to need upcoming year. And they must turn that into the boosters, the treasurer, so she could set the budget and make sure it makes sense. So we work together on the budget, and then the treasurer prepares the budget that includes the last year's actuals and the projected budget of the upcoming year and presents the budget to the general membership for approval. So the general membership approves the budget, and that's how we stay in line and make sure that there's no misuse of funds. I already went over the spending. So we keep the team involved by making sure that our monthly budget is looked over. So we give a treasurer's report. It says what's in our bank account, what in the budget was budgeted, what we've spent on that budget, and what's left over is what we do monthly. And we give that to the team president and the team's recording secretary, and they talk to the kids. So the kids actually are saying they need parts or they want a certain tool. They work with each other, but they're able to see it. And we think that's part of life skills that they're learning. So it's not just going to an adult with an endless bank account. They see it in black and white on a paper, even though they don't touch the money, and they're knowing how they have to budget and what they have to budget. And then if it's not in the budget and they want something, they have to work for it.
Amen, girl.
Life skills. It's all about life skills.
That's right.
Mhm.
So, and we also make it black and white. The documentation that is needed is a tangible piece of record with a signature. If I died tomorrow, somebody can come in and look at our records and see that I signed off on this expense. So it can't be, and I tell them if it's budgeted, if it's in the budget and it's build season and they're in a rush, Mr. Mike, just send me a text. I need this part. I need to order it. I'll send it okay, and I'll handle the paperwork and get the signatures. You keep going. So we don't have a whole lot of people say with the red tape with the school because we have our own 501c3 and we handle the money. We also have a team credit card. But it also works the same way. You need approval before you could spend it. And that's just a checks and balances. They can't spend the money without an approval. We can't write checks without an approval. And somebody comes behind to make sure we have that tangible approval. We have it in the budget. We can spend the money. So cash, when we money received, when we get cash, there's two people that have to count it, and it cannot be our treasurer. And it cannot be a school employee per our parish rules. So we have to have two people that sign off saying they counted the money, and it has to be deposited daily if it's under $1,000. If it's over $1,000, if it's I'm sorry, if it's under $1,000, it needs to be deposited daily. If it's, I'm just getting that wrong. Over daily, under, it could be within a week. So that's what we use for our cash system if we need to. And it's usually just like we just finished North Shore Knockout, where we may have had a concession stand and that cash was brought in. It's not very often, but when we have fundraisers and have to deal with cash, then that's the way we do it. I think I went over the monthly treasurer's financial report that includes, again, the checking balance at the beginning of the month, what is budgeted in, the actual year-to-date spending, and what they have left to spend, and the balance, so that the kids are getting a statement every month with what's going on financially, so they could see, okay, we need to step it up and do more fundraisers. We can't get that new tool we wanted. We have to save money for a trailer. And I think that gives them, it's important. 2992 is always saying we're not just building robots. So we like to integrate so much life skills into this. And I think that that's one of the things that we do well, is make sure that we're working with the team captains to make sure that they're facilitating that life skill down to their teammates. And then monthly, we have a reconciliation where we go through the bank statements, we balance it out, we make sure that every expenditure has a approval on it. And if we have reimbursements, we make sure that that's improved. And we keep that monthly, so that at the end of the year, we have a yearly audit. And that yearly audit, we take the bylaws and it tells us what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. And we have a independent audit committee that is separate from the booster club. It cannot be now incoming and outgoing, and they have to review all the financial records for the year. So we have an expensive form that we use that we make sure that everything's checks and balances. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. So I just want to make sure that we're being respectful of the rest of the time. So let's do Q&A at the end for everybody. And that way, like Lewis, I know you asked a question in the chat. We'll bring that back at the end, and then you can just have all of your questions for each individual person as we go. Okay, so now we're going to, I think it's Kelly. Well, it is now. Even if it wasn't, it is now. Okay. Go for it, Kelly.
Okay. I am the president of the booster for 8044 Denham Venom. We're a fairly new booster. We're just at a year of actually having it. We're a unique situation where the school has their own account, and we've been pretty lucky in Livingston Parish where the school has been very lenient with their funds, but we found that we needed to have funds for different travel events, supporting the kids, helping them with meals and whatnot. So we're fairly new. Like I said, we're just at a year old, but we have Hack Club, which is a little bit different than having your own 501c3. And hold on, I forgot to share my screen first. And so I have this, let's see, screen share. Share, okay. So this is, can y'all see it?
Can you make it a little bigger?
Bigger?
Mm-hmm. Like make your screen wider. Yeah, that's better.
Is that better? So this is a document that I can share with y'all, but basically it is when we had our first initial meeting with Hack Club, where you can either do a 501c3 through directly applying through the IRS, which has already been discussed on this call, or getting a physical sponsorship. So Hack gives you that status without having to go through all of the red tape that other people have done, but they do take a 7% of any of your money deposited. It's been fairly easy to use, but what they do is they take care of all of the paperwork through the IRS. They do all of our taxes. They do a expense report here where you can go to these different items and it will show each and every transaction, and you can actually give members a log on where they can see the transactions where they can't make any changes or anything. And you can customize it any way you want to. And it's very simple to use. Like, they give you credit cards. You can have a credit card for any member that you want to have. And whenever we swipe the credit card, it sends an automatic email to us that says, hey, upload your receipt so that they can track it. But we have not used a lot of team expenses through Hack. Like I said, mainly the money goes through the team account through the school. I'm sorry, my husband just got home and the dogs are about to go crazy. But so you can get any cards you want. You can get ACH transfers. You can pay people back through the ACH transfers. They have different things. The kind of big 3 things that Hack requires is that you upload all of your receipts, which most people would. All funds that are spent are on team or booster, no personal use, and all funds must go through Hack Club. So you can't have your own separate account. It all has to go through there. You don't have to have a minimum in the account. There's no limit to how long you have to use to spend the funds. And they've been really easy to work with as far as an entity. And like I said, really easy to use, but we're not buying the big equipment. Now, there have been some changes in Livingston Parish where we may have to start using the booster a lot more because they're getting a little bit stricter. And we're currently trying to work things out, and listening to getting our own 501c3 might be something we're interested in the future. But just as a parent account, taking care of like food expenses for the kids, we do have a board, we do have bylaws, and we're getting to the point where we're about to amend the bylaws that if we're having to buy equipment for the team, to make sure that those things are team related. And we also have a clause that says, you know, if for some reason the booster is trying to control the money, that the coaches can dissolve the booster and the money goes back to the team. We also use band for communication. And there's another thing that I just kind of wanted to point out. There is a Facebook group, Boosting the Boosters, that anyone can join. And it's a group where people just ask a bunch of questions and can answer for anyone that's interested. I don't have a fancy presentation like everyone else, so I was just kind of just touching on Hack Club, and I don't know if you want to do question and answering now, or if
I think this one might end up with a few more questions. Let's just go to the end. I just got a message that one of our presenters is not going to be able to make it, so we will have a little bit more time at the end. So y'all just write down your questions, and that way we can ask Kelly or whoever you want to ask at the end. Okay, and thank you, Kelly, for that. I do have a couple of notes that that I'm going to want to share on Hack Club at the end as well, because I've had multiple conversations with them. Okay, so let me see. I went away from my screen, and I didn't even start the timer last time, Kelly, so you could have gone on for days. All right, we are now going to, who is next? Anybody have the list in front of them? Doesn't matter. Let's just say, let's go to the other Julie. Let's go to Julie Rexford. Julie, can you talk to us about your situation? And I know that you're just gonna have a chat. You don't have anything to share on the screen.
Definitely. Now I'm going to just have a chat. I'm actually, I guess, in a sense, a combination of everything y'all just talked about. I am a community team, but based in a college situation. So in a, you know, in an entity of a community college. So I am bound by all of the state laws and rules on purchasing and things of that nature. So with us starting this and everything, I've actually learned to navigate our system because we actually have our regular business office side and we have our foundation side, and our foundation side is a 501(c)(3), you know, it is a not, you know, a nonprofit. And so what's happened is I actually play with several pools of money. And so I have, so depending on what I'm purchasing, depends on the process I have to go through. But we, like this year, we were given a large donation from a local foundation that went into the school's foundation. So I'm functioning that through the 501(c). And so with that gives me some, a little bit more leverage in the sense of, under normal business conditions, I can't buy like food and things of that nature. Under the 501(c), I can. So there's some different requirements that gives me over on that side of the money. I work with a different person for my purchase requisitions and purchase orders. But you know, I'm still bound by our normal purchasing processes. But there are some things I can purchase through the foundation side that normally I would not be able to go through the regular business side of things. Then other funding sources, everything from student fees to other, you know, other grants that are coming through our business office. They get, you know, they go. So I've literally got a spreadsheet of all the different pots of money and where am I purchasing from. But what I did end up doing this year, because as we all know, processes can take time. When we started in January, I got with my business office and said, look, I can't wait 3 weeks for you to approve a purchase order for me to go purchase something because we only got 8 weeks to build this thing. So what we did was we actually did an open PO. So I did an open PO, one for Home Depot and one for Andy Mark. And so, so Andy Mark, I'd make my order. I would get with my person in purchasing and they would put in the school's credit card, get it ordered. I could get it there quickly. Anything through them. The Home Depot, which was all of, so because we started new, so that was all of our tools and basic supplies. Literally, I'd go shopping and somebody from purchasing would meet me at Home Depot and pay the bill with the school credit card. And so, but literally from week to week, every week we practiced, we needed something new. If I needed to go buy, you know, certain screws, if I needed to go buy electrical wire, whatever I had to go buy, majority of it I could get at Home Depot. And so I made quite a few trips to Home Depot and they met me there and bought it. Matter of fact, I was going to do that today, but I didn't have the card to put the materials in. So that's going to wait till another day. But that's how we're doing that is, so I was able to get the materials I needed very quickly that way. So I did that last season. I've already established those open POs as of right now, because we're doing some modifications and repairs. We needed some supplies. So I've already got them in place so that when we start building, whether we decide to modify the robot we have now, build a new one, whatever the case may be, between now and January, I'm ready to go, especially in January. If I need to go purchase anything, I can get it rolling. When I exhaust that open PO, if I still got money in my accounts, I'll have them approve another open PO so I can keep that there. So, you know, I'm, like I said, I have to abide by the school's business policies and everything. Even though we're a community team, my team comes from many different schools, but because I am tied to a community college, I fall under all of their operating, constraints there. But that's how I was able to work out a system that I could take care of things and take care of it quickly with those open POs.
Julie,
Mhm.
One other thing I wanted you to try to cover was when we were at Red Stick, you mentioned that you have something with stipends. I think it was about teen meals or something. Do you remember that?
No, I've done stipends before for another organization, but I haven't done it with with this team before.
So how do you buy
Mhm.
meals for the kids?
The kids have been responsible up to
They've
this
been
point.
responsible for that.
Yeah, up
Okay.
to this point. If I have a procedure that I have followed for another organization that I'm in charge of on at the school where we did provide meals. It's going to be not if ever, but if we make it to Worlds, I think this is where it'll come in with having stipends for food from that. But the local events, no, that's not. We have not had that up to this point.
Can you just
Mhm.
explain a little bit more about what that means? So a stipend for food, where is that coming from and how do you do it?
It would come out of the funds that, whatever funds I have available, it would have to come from those. It would come from my designated accounts.
And you get that ahead of time, like
I would have to get that approved through my business office, and then they would tell me a dollar amount per day. It follows the state laws, in regards to stipends and that type of thing. I had actually my captain of my team actually also competed at Skills USA. He got a stipend for his meals when he went to nationals in Atlanta. So, and then whatever he didn't spend, he would have to bring back and give back to the school. And so he'd have to provide the receipts. So there's a lot of documentation and, receipts and signing for it and that type of thing that are procedures within our business office from that standpoint. Like I said, to this point, we haven't even addressed that. My thought is that it could be if we did an overnight trip. But so far, any event we've gone to, the kids have been responsible for their own food. And whether I would have to get approval for it, whether they'd say I could do it or not. If I could, probability is it would be if I had any money left in those funds that are in the foundation. Is my guess is where we would go from there. So, so that, I do believe there's a way, but we have not even approached that as of yet.
that's okay. We have faith that you will have to, because one day.
That's it. Exactly.
And when you do, call Chris Hatton first so he can tell you his horror stories and you can prepare for them.
Also, I do
Let me
understand.
tell you.
I've taken
Okay.
students for many other events for different things, and so I do understand the process, in that respect. But up until this point, I can say I have phenomenal parents that even for practices, they bring food in, they bring cookies, I don't even have to ask. My parents have just been fantastic, and they just do. So I haven't even had to address anything of that nature, just because the parents have jumped in and done it. And in that respect,
That's
I
awesome.
will add that I've gone to a couple of their meetings and the cookies are great.
Everybody's going to Julie's meeting next week. Just let us know what time.
we had s'mores cookies this past week, so they were
Oh my
actually very
goodness.
good. So yes, so far, like I said, our parents have just been phenomenal. Even if I honestly know if they saw one of my students needing something, they would just jump in and take care of them. They're just that kind of group of people, and so far, like, I've never had to address it, and like I said,
Yeah.
like I said, I've had to use it with other organizations. So I know, I've dealt with it that way. I've never even asked them with this organization yet. So, but the bottom line is I would venture to say it's going to depend on what monies I have in my funds.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Julie. So
All right.
we have two other portions of this workshop. One of them is creating a 501c3 within your school district or your CTE center. And the other is working with your foundation at your community college And both of those are going to be tomorrow. So those are the two that are going to be in part 2, which will be tomorrow at 5:30, and we'll send out the link after this. I would like
What's going to be tomorrow?
That's tomorrow is the community colleges with a foundation. So that's Fletcher, that's Christy and Trevor.
So
And
they're probably
then
following the same procedures I am, because we all abide by the same rules. Yeah.
yeah. And I don't think they do an open PO though.
Okay.
So that's their structure. And then the other one is going to be creating a 501c3 within your school district or your CTE center, which is where the Poltronics is based. So that's going to be tomorrow from 5:30, starting at 5:30. And so we don't have any more presenters on this one, but I do want to open up that Q&A. And I'm just going to go ahead and list out my questions just in case y'all have some of the same ones. And
Karen,
then
can I just add though, with those open POs, there are limits on that. They set an
Okay.
open PO with a limitation. So, and then when I exhaust that, I'd have to apply for another open PO. So
gotcha.
I don't know if I
That makes
clarified
sense.
that.
No,
Okay.
that's good. That makes
Yes.
sense. Thanks for adding that on.
Yes.
So while I'm giving my questions, if y'all want to put your questions either in the, I guess just put it in the chat because we already have the chat going. And then I'll address the questions with each, moderate those after I'm finished with mine. So the first one I have is actually for Julie Dixon. Do you have to have, when I go to a superintendent and I say, hey, why don't you just start a booster? They usually don't want anything to do with it. And it's typically because there's been some horror story in the past, like maybe somebody ran off with money or something like that. So is there some sort of insurance or something that you have to hold because some people are awful, or what?
We do have insurance. I don't know if it's specifically because people are awful, but yes, we do have insurance. We're also still they require, say, St. Tammany Parish requires booster clubs to be a separate organization from the school. We cannot use their tax ID number. We have to have our own. But we're still guided through them. We still have a guideline through them. The principal holds a lot of authority when it comes to fundraising. He has to approve it. So we still have some procedures we have to go through, even though we are our own entity. Even like this week, we've had band communication. So we've been, I don't know if anybody knows, but St. Tammany Parish had put out that mentors cannot talk to the students directly. So yeah, so that's that's
St.
our
Charles Parish also has that. St. Charles Parish also has that. And
That's good to know.
So that ties back to a state law in regards to students under 18. You're not supposed to have individual communications with a student. That's the state law.
Well, it can't be 2-on-1 either. It can't be the teacher, a mentor, or a group of mentors and students, the parents and students. There's complete separations between the minors and the adults.
So that's interesting. Maybe we have to have a follow-up because I think that's probably going to be coming down the pipeline elsewhere. Is that that includes band?
Includes band.
Yep. Yeah, because CPSB implemented that as well last year. And the only official way that you can communicate with CPSB is actually through Teams. You have to have your CPSB account with Teams registered because they can track the conversations.
See, well, band can too.
Yeah, band can too. But the problem with band is you can delete conversations, whereas Teams on the admin side, they can prevent you from deleting your messages. And that's why they're governing with Microsoft, essentially.
I think band has an option for that too. I don't want to get too in the weeds with that topic. We probably do need to have some sort of follow-up with that though, especially if it's more people. Lewis, can you make a note for me that we want to do that? Okay. I have one other question for you. Who does the 990 for your booster club? Which position?
Treasurer.
Treasurer. Okay. Because I noticed you had the financial that, and then you also had the treasurer. So I was just curious. Okay, I have another. We're gonna open up the Hat Club can of worms. Kelly, you ready?
Oh, hold on,
Okay.
can we before we open that can of worms? Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so because this is important about Hot Club. I notated some stuff that I wanted to share with everybody. I'm a business mindset. That's what I do for a living. If you've heard anything, a resounding word that everyone here has said, everyone at some point is having to leverage a 501c3 no matter what. So whether that's within your school, that's within the booster club, that's with using Hat Club, everyone is having to do that. It's a lot of work. It really is. But I can tell you right now, it is the most rewarding thing to complete once you're finished with it, to be able to have your entire group running. And then those
I didn't think
extra
it was that much
issues.
work.
Huh?
I didn't think it was that much work. It wasn't that difficult.
It's not. But to people that don't do that kind of stuff, it is kind of a lot. But it also brings in another layer for y'all, like for us. Those rules about you can't communicate with such and such, that doesn't apply to us anymore. We are completely stripped away from the school. Yes,
Yeah.
we may be using the school facility to meet, we may be using the school for such and such, but the kids are signing up with the organization that has zero ties legally to the school system. You are your own entity, just like if it was a T-ball program, gymnastics, whatever you have, some kind of after-school sports event. It's the same concept. But I just wanted to reiterate to everybody is the control, the policies, the protection, and it's all 501c3 based. Everyone here, whether you pay Hat Club the 7% or you create it yourself, because the problem with Hat Club, you're not a 501c3, you're just using them for money. Your
So
actual
Steve,
501c3 status will get you all those extra benefits that you're looking for too.
I have a question for you before the Hat Club thing. I don't know how to put that on the chat, but
Go ahead.
with you separating from the school, now our kids get excused absences when they go to worlds and stuff like that. How do you mitigate around that? They just have to take a
Nope.
lost
Everything
day?
that they do is completely excused. Because what we do is we essentially I type up a letter for each event, and it's just a generic letter, and I just pop in there the dates and where we're going, and it is big old Chat GPT word fluff of this is furthering their education, they're learning math, science, engineering skills, they're meeting with industry leaders in this field, so it's an extracurricular activity that's still getting them the education, and the schools approve it. The principals have no problem whatsoever approving that.
I've done quite a few letters like that for different teams where they
Yep.
wanted it on the first Louisiana-Mississippi letterhead, and I've signed off on that.
Yeah,
And
the principals absolutely love it because it's not just going on a field trip to go learn about alligators. You're
Yeah.
going to meet people that are doing this. It's a whole lot more than just a field trip.
So, and I've done, and because I'm community based too, I do the same thing. I let them all know, all the principals know. But I did have one school that declined allowing my student to go.
And whenever you
so,
have that, you got to kind of go to the board and stuff like that and say, hey,
And the
look,
parents.
all the other schools are doing it. This one principal's denying it, and it
he
gets in
ended up
trouble. But
coming
we
in the
haven't had any
evenings and
problems. Thank
Saturday.
God. Yeah.
Yeah,
all of our
the
principals
student
are
can
for
always
it.
come on Saturday. Sometimes those
Right.
those declines are because of the student's performance in school.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, you can't really argue with that, and that's when you have to turn it over to the parents and let them deal with it.
And that's something that we have in house too, is if you don't have C's or better in every class, you cannot travel. You can't take off. If you do, you're on your own. Your name will not be on the official letter to the principal for that school. So
That's
if
a good
you
point.
leave, you're unexcused and you're skipping schools. What's happening?
So let's keep it on Hat Club. I've had multiple conversations because I just felt like I didn't understand how this worked. And so I've had conversations with them directly. I actually have a copy of the contract that I'll make sure that we add to the notes in this. so that everybody can read it ahead of time and see what you're actually agreeing to. But one of the things I was going to say, Kelly, why do you also have a booster until you started talking about governance? And that's what made me realize Hat Club isn't going to have the checks and balances. So you use both. Is that why you have both booster and Hat Club?
Yeah, so when the Hat Club is basically just the account. They don't check you. They'll do your taxes and your forms at the end of the year, and they'll keep your ledger, but they do not regulate you. So we have the booster as a group that says what can we use the funds for, what we can't use the funds for, and then like I said, there's also we have the coaches involved that can dissolve it if needed.
Right. So through the questions that I brought up to Hat Club, I found out some answers and some potential challenges because Hat Club is not for everybody. So they do take that 7%, but what you're paying for in that situation is the conveniences that Kelly's talking about, being able to have a debit card that you can use from your account anywhere. So yes, Chris, you can use it for the food at the event. I've already talked to them about that. They said as long as it's supporting the team, then it's an allowed expense. The challenge is the other thing that I asked them was, what if the school wants to pay the registration? Because one of their rules is that you can't have another account. So what if the school wants to pay the registration and then you're paying your expenses separately? Well, their answer was they will allow the school to pay the registration. So that seems to be an exception to their, like you can't have anybody else pay for stuff rule.
So we are a separate entity from the team. So we are just parents and the team does their own thing. So they have most of the grants that go through them, most of the sponsorships go through them. In fact, none of it's actually gone into the Hat Club account. What we have is stuff that we've earned from running a concession stand. We have a champion teamwear store that we run. So our funds are minimum in the Hat Club. Everything, like if they want to buy parts, if they want to buy screws or anything else, that goes through the school account. So we're basically a parent booster that supports team meals, or if they need something, that they can't get easily, but it is basically just a parent account that does not run the team.
And since the agreement is with your parent group, it doesn't matter if the school is paying for something according to your contract with them.
Massive loophole.
That makes, yeah. Okay. I was wondering how I just figured like who's checking. And so people, but that does make a lot more sense because their contract is with the booster, not with the school.
Correct.
So interesting.
And I know like for us, whenever we were looking, because we were first looking at Hat Club, because I didn't want to go through the 501c3 process. And the biggest reason why I went ahead with the process was simply like she stated, it's just a glorified bank account.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's all they're doing. They're giving you access to be able to say, hey, yeah, we're a nonprofit. Here's our donation slip. Here's our tax ID number. That's it, though. It gives you nothing else. And so that was for us paying 7% just to have a bank account. Yeah, that's great. It worked out, but it doesn't unlock the extra features of the nonprofit having it in-house, which is like she said, they're both separate things. They're just using it for a bank account, essentially.
Yeah, I think that if you have a choice between Hat Club and creating your own separate 501c3, creating your separate 501c3 is always going to be the better way to go. Yeah. But it is going to give you more on the level of bookkeeping. It's going to give you more on the level of people, that you need to be helping you, time that you have to put into it. And the other thing is that some of the school districts don't allow you to do a 501c3 separate. So one thing I'll note about that is one of our teams you probably heard about the stories about West Harrison. They actually had a separate 501c3. They were working in the school. The school decided that that was a liability, that they needed to work only at the school. And then they would only allow them to go for 2 days. It was just a whole big mess. And the only reason that they were able to separate from the school very easily was because they had a separate 501c3. So they basically went from being a school team to a community team, just like that, because they were able to just basically walk away. So that's another benefit. Not that I think that everybody should plan on walking away from your school. There's lots of benefits to being inside of a building and having the insurance of a school, but does have its benefits to be able to have your own 501c3. A few things that I've found that are challenges with having Hat Club. There's a lot of great things about it. Obviously the 7%, you're paying it if it's a large donation and you're not doing those smaller amounts, that can be significant. There are people that complain about the name, and the owner is not willing to make any changes on that. I guess he's very proud of it. The Hack Club was created for hackathons, and so that's why it's called that. But there are people, if you get your bank statement, it's not going to say that the money went to 2080 or whatever team number it is. It's going to say it went to Hack Club Bank. And if somebody doesn't remember that they made a donation a long time ago, I get people that don't remember that they bought a t-shirt at Magnolia and they dispute the charge. So, like doing these bigger donations and having the word hack on it could potentially be a problem. The other major issue that I see is that I have donors, like larger donors like Mississippi Power, Entergy. They do not want to donate outside of the state that they're servicing. Hack Club is not located in the state that our teams are servicing. So Entergy, for example, would not be able to give to a team that's only using Hack Club. Now, the way around that, again, is if it's a one-off thing, you could have them donated to First Louisiana-Mississippi and we'll pass it on. But that is not something that we can do all the time. Hopefully, you'll be in a situation where you got so many huge donations from big companies and they all want to give it to you locally that you're going to need to start your own 501c3 just to process all of those payments coming into your team. We all want to be that one day. Does anybody else have questions about Hack Club? Anything? P-Right, interesting. State law prevents schools from denying field trips and competitions to students unless grades are too low. Huh. That is a nice piece of information.
One other thing
Yeah.
that I will say with Hack Club, because we're kind of a unique individual, where we're only really doing it for the parent support, and we have looked into getting our own and getting away from Hack if the laws in Livingston Parish start getting stricter. But like we did look into getting a grant with Walmart, and our number was already used because it's a generalized number for multiple different groups. So applying for grants and stuff, we have to go through all this red tape to get special permission. So
wow, that is a
was
big
another
deal for
thing
some.
that was kind of like this may not be the best thing. But when we looked at it initially, like I said, our team is only 4 years old. This is 1 year of the booster, and you can dissolve it at any time. And one of the things is, like, I'm medical, I'm not business, and I was like, thinking of starting it was just giving me anxiety, but also who's going to keep it up in the future.
That's very true. That's what your 7% is paying for.
Yes, as we go as a group, and if the laws start getting worse and the schools start becoming a little bit stricter, we may need to look into going into those other avenues. But it's worked well for just a parent organization.
That's a very interesting point, because I actually ran across an obstacle with Raytheon for the Magnolia Regional. They wanted to support Pultronics, but they had already given a donation to the Magnolia. Pultronics not being a 501c3, they could not give it directly to the school. At the time, they were not a 501c3. So they ended up, I had to get on the phone with the lawyers from Raytheon, which is like, what? How am I on the phone with the lawyers from Raytheon? Just to be able to have the approval. They found some loophole and they were able to give us 2 donations in the same year, but it was a big process. And now, of course, Pultronics does have their own 501c3, so they're not going to have that problem again. But there are definitely, I didn't even think about that, Kelly, about, the possibility, because it is that same tax ID number that everybody's using the same one. So for sure, I'm sure there's other, issues across the country with that as well. So I'd like to ask one question of Julie Rexford. Why don't you do orders on Home Depot for pickup? And just use, like, instead of having somebody meet you at the store.
Because sometimes I'm actually going and looking for certain things as
right.
I'm learning this.
You don't know what you need until you're there, right?
Some of this is actually me actually going and seeing if we can find what we need. So
That's kind of cool, actually. I like that.
yeah, and a couple of times we did try pickup, and then they didn't. They said they had it, they didn't have it.
Yeah.
I'm 10 minutes from not even 10 minutes. So I'm like 6 blocks from the store. So for me to run over there and look and see if they actually have it in stock has been just as easy as if we try. We can't. We have done it. We've done it, and it didn't go against my open PO. I did a separate PO for our toolbox, and they delivered it to the school because I have no way to get that big old thing to the school. But when we bought our toolbox, we bought it, and they literally delivered it. So I have probably done everything in a hodgepodge of probably every which way you could do something. And now, as you know, I just, mine is always just, okay, I need this as quickly. I get on the phone. The thing I can say here is having that working relationship with your business office or whoever is the person that's doing all the accounting for the organization. For me, I have a very good working relationship with our business office. So
yeah,
I, literally, if I don't know how to, I'm like, okay, this is how do I make this happen? And I just get on the phone and we brainstorm and we problem solve. Is it the best way for us to go ahead and order it online, get it shipped here, whichever the case may be. And so that's, and that's how all of everything I did came about and went from there. So yeah.
I think relationships with your administrators and your business office is a good idea no matter what.
Definitely. And I have a fantastic business office, so they have been more than willing to help me make it happen. So
that's awesome. Does anybody use gift cards? Does anybody get approval to buy gift cards and then use those? No,
and for some reason I don't think that would work. In some way, I'm sure that's probably against the rules when it comes to state purchasing. For some reason, I just think that was probably I would be told no. So
it's not attached to a physical item. It's attached to a card that's not
card in $1. So you have no way of really tracking it, that type of thing. So, so that's why I'm thinking I would probably never wouldn't be able to get that to happen.
Yeah.
So,
weird enough that we were specifically told that gift cards are not a thing. And then going to World Championship, we were given these e-gift cards for kids to use for food. And there were e-gift cards. They couldn't use them. They couldn't swipe. So it was a mess. So we ended up I had to put all of their gift cards on my phone because I had the tap to pay where everybody else didn't. And so I'm still holding all of these gift cards. It's
Chris,
not
if there's anybody that needs a 501c3.
Oh my, yes. Yes. I'm gonna call it some truths
but will your school, so that's the conversation you're gonna have to have with your school and seeing if they'll allow you to do that.
Yeah, I've started those conversations and I've gotten resounding no's all over the place, but I'm still fighting the fight and hoping for the best. So
we may need to have a separate meeting with them.
Yep.
And maybe we can bring some other KIPP schools from across the country and they can tell what they do. That's usually the best way to do it with that.
Yeah. I think it's possible. They just don't know how to navigate that conversation.
Yeah. So we need somebody to give them all the steps that's in their system already, that has the approvals, and that way.
Exactly.
Stephen, there's a question for you. Yes. Stephen, there's a question for you in the chat. How would this apply? Well, Lewis, why don't you just go ahead and ask your question?
Well, it was actually more to Phil.
Oh, sorry.
The comment, the thing with the state law saying that you can't tell a student that they couldn't go on a field trip if they're like in good academic standing. I get that in the school environment, but in the environment of a purely community team, like Julie's team or like Steven's team, I don't really see how it's not a school field trip, so to speak. It's not school related. So I was just wondering, how does that state law
Well,
then apply in that case?
it's not school related in the sense of like we're attached to the school, but the program is furthering their education. So it is an educational tool in their back pocket. And I know for us, all of our principals that we reach out to, like if a new kid comes from a new school, we go sit down with that principal and we sit down and tell them, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're doing. And then we
Right.
just send that beautiful letter each time that they need to go somewhere so they have a record of it. But the principals are aware of what's going on and they understand the importance of the program. And so for us, it's worked out fine. I have not had any issues. I know in our parish alone, every single school has a robotics program. It's very, very VEX heavy here. We're actually the only first team in Southwest Louisiana.
Yeah.
But all the schools, all the principals, they're aware of STEM. And it's really just our board of directors that need to get on board with STEM. Principals are great. But
Yeah, I
it's
get
just
that.
another thing you have to have a conversation with them.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. So
Well,
in
and I think
the
in that-
environment,
Right.
when you're in the environment where you're not connected to a school, it
Mhm.
becomes much more
Mhm.
relationship based.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
based on that relation. I mean, because I guess we're not technically connected with North Shore High School or Salmon High School. Team Combustion started off as a community team that took in that eventually just take in students from just about anywhere in St. Tammany Parish.
Yeah.
But I have relationships with those principals, and I can pretty much get them to agree to just about anything that we need them to do. But it's relationship based. It's not a legal thing. So I was just asking purely about the legal
I wouldn't say
aspects
there's a
of it.
legal matter
Right.
of they have to do it. It's definitely more of the kids have to be on the good gracious of the principals, like don't be a bad kid in school. I know that we have in our policy that you have to reach out to your teachers 2 weeks prior to the event leaving. We recommend as soon as you get the handbook, let them know ahead of time, and keep them posted. So we teach the kids like, hey, logistically, you need to plan out your schedule with your teacher, make sure there's no tests or quizzes, schedule your makeup exams, things of that nature. So that's kind of how we do it. But yes, I get where you're coming from. There is no like legal ramifications that if they said a kid couldn't go, the kid couldn't find it because yes, I'm not technically a teacher of the parent.
And also, I think that state law only applies to public. I'm not sure if it applies over to parochial schools. It may. I don't know. I haven't researched the law.
We have Bob Whitman on the call. He's from Rummel. He could probably answer
And
some.
that may be the case. And it may be. I just because like I said, I cross parochial, public, homeschool. I got a little bit of everything within both my FLL teams and my FRC teams. So we go.
You sound like me, Julie. We got everybody up in here.
That's it.
I think we probably need to schedule a workshop that's just like a roundtable of all of the community teams talking about how they handle different situations, because there's so many different nuances that are other teams are not going to need to know necessarily. So maybe we'll schedule that.
And I've been on both sides of that because I did FLL for 7 years in a school, and then when I started a community-based FLL team, it was a whole different ball game, and so so definitely there's a difference there.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear my story about being at a school. I was a rebel.
Oh Lord, here we go. So
look at Lewis.
Keep focused, Steven. Keep focused.
Stay focused. We're actually just about 10 minutes until the end of the call. Before I ask about more questions, I just wanted to note that we are going to do that follow-up tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to talk about at 5:30 again, we're going to talk about creating a 501c3 specifically with a CTE center. So if you're in a CTE situation, you might want to come back and join that one. It's also a great one for school district implementation of 501c3. So again, attached to a school district, not to a school, or a CTE center, not to a school, one specific school. And then hopefully, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to join us or not, but hopefully we'll also have Christy and Trevor from the Bayou Crusaders over in Fletcher just to talk about what they do with their foundation at their community college. You know, everybody's got different situations and personalities and all that stuff. So we're just giving everybody this information, hoping that something will stick. So, you know, you might not want to model your team exactly like somebody else's, but maybe through these webinars, you're able to kind of pull bits and pieces and figure out what's best for you. If this is a recording, so if anybody has questions after, please email them. We'll send an email out when we send the link, and we'll, if it's okay with all the presenters, I'd love to be able to just share contact information, just an email address. If that's not okay, let me know separately. But that way people can follow up with their questions as well. So does anybody on the call have questions right now for any of our presenters before we close out?
I had one question for Stephen. You mentioned financial software that the students use. I'm assuming it's not like QuickBooks or anything like that. So, or is it QuickBooks?
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, it is QuickBooks.
They're not touching it directly. I'm the one that's doing the journal entries and stuff. But they plan everything in Excel. So they use
Okay.
Excel spreadsheets and stuff to plan it out and do the budgeting. But when it comes to actually like in and out and journal entries, I'm doing that on the back end. I just don't have I don't have a treasurer yet.
I got you.
Yeah, we use, and the reason why we use QuickBooks, just FYI for everybody, fun fact. It's, I think for a nonprofit, it's like 15-20 bucks a month for the account. And you actually create your own QuickBooks checking account within your QuickBooks account. And if you put money in that checking account, it earns 5% a year, no questions asked, in perpetuity. So
Wow.
like in the off season, the money just sits there. Like we've earned like 500 bucks in free money. It's just sitting there in the account, just ringing up. And you can actually move money within the checking account into what's called folders. So like if you have money that just like you got $1,000 and that's dedicated to food for the month of February, put it in the February folder for food. And then now you can't touch it. So if you swipe the card, it won't pull it out of that folder. You have to move it from the folder to the checking account
really?
to swipe the card. So super cool little feature there.
That's
That's why
better
I
than
love it the
buckets.
most. I actually use it for my business. So I earn interest on people's money that they give me. It's fantastic. Highly recommend it.
The other thing that's really good about that is if you get a donor that needs you to report what you spent the money on later, you could potentially put money into a folder or whatever you're saying, right?
Yep. And like for us, the way that we
Please call
bill
me.
the kids is we actually invoice them. So they actually get an invoice that they have to pay. And then when they pay online with Zeppi, it comes into the bank account and we match that payment with their invoice and they get their receipt saying that their invoice has been paid. So it's all electronically tracked, no paperwork whatsoever.
We're going to have a whole other webinar on Stephen's
Oh, yeah, that's a big
technology
one.
and everything that he's figured out. I know he's tested a lot of systems to figure out which
few.
ones. Yeah.
Just to let y'all know, how many of you are using Band?
And
Quite a few of y'all? Okay.
I'm
Just
only
let y'all
using it
know.
as a mentor, but my students are.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I went through 8 different companies and actually prototyped my own with another company. They were actually going to hire me and then gave up and switched to Band because Band just had everything. So it was, I dive deep into tech. Love it. So if y'all have any
P-Rod's not in
questions,
the
let me
seat,
know.
but he raised his hand.
Huh?
P-Rod's not in one of these little seats, but he raised his hand. He
Yes,
uses it
yes,
too.
absolutely. So yeah, if you ever
We'll-
need any help, don't hesitate to
We'll
reach out. I'm
definitely
always
want to
here.
talk about communication with the students, mentors and students.
I believe that Band has
do.
kind of gotten ahead of this, and I want to say there's something about, there's like an article about permissions and
Yeah,
communicating with
you
minors.
can prevent them from deleting messages. Like the only person
Yeah,
that can
yeah.
delete
And you could
is
archive
me.
it.
Yeah,
You could archive it for 3 years, but they told us total separation right now.
that's tough.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And that's whenever you take your 501c3 and you sign the kids up with the 501c3, just using the school grounds to build from. Loophole.
Yeah, as long as they'll allow it. because
Correct.
it's on their liability, even though it's your
Mhm.
501c3.
You're
There's
gonna have to have
definitely
your
challenges.
insurance. And by the
Challenges in
way,
every solution.
facility insurance, we have a 2,000,000, 2,000,000, 250,000, $100,000 liability policy. It is 3,800 a year, which
Mm.
isn't bad. So-
By the way, the QuickBooks that you're talking about, they have it sometimes on TechSoup for $79.
For the year.
So yeah.
Yep.
It's just like every now and then everybody should keep their eye on TechSoup and see what kind of discounts and stuff you can get. Of course, you have to have a nonprofit in order to get those discounts, but it can be a school. So
Yep.
okay, well, if nobody has any other questions, I think we're going to wrap this one up. You can send your follow-up questions. We'll follow this with an email that has the video in it. And then hopefully you all will be able to join tomorrow, 5:30 for Poltronics and potentially Bayou Crusaders. I see P-Ry is typing, so I'm going to wait until he's finished. Oh, he said y'all have a great day.
So please record tomorrow evenings because I won't be. I'll be with my FLL team. So
Yeah, we have a team meeting too.
Yeah. That's everybody had different schedules, so we're just trying to work it out the best we can.
Definitely.
And if anybody has ideas for workshops, send them to me on an email. I have several that I want to do, but we only have so much time before kickoff. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
And thanks to all of our
All right.
presenters. It was amazing.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.